which we are. Oh, hold on, I gotta fix you though, because you're all weird. Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. So we'll do that. Easy enough fix. I'm still getting used to Zencaster. Probably had it at a different size last time or something. There we go. Now you're looking good. You're looking like you're supposed to. It is really nice for the recording, though, I'll tell you what. It's got to be nice for you, too, because then you don't have to worry about, oh, did I send him that? Or if you get distracted at the end or something and you got to run real quick and then maybe forget about it. Like, I've done that. I've forgotten to upload after those were the days, like by a day or two sometimes. So, oh boy. And we got a Phelan in the chat. That's cool. Always good, always good. You know what I'm realizing? I don't have the Social Stream Ninja thing pinned. That's why they weren't showing up. Okay, well. That's fine. We've got the Twitch chat running on the bottom still. That's a new thing I'm playing around with as I try more stuff. Well, if you're ready, I'm ready. I got my notes and things to say and talk about and all that good stuff. All right. Okay. One more time. All right, here we go. And welcome into Let's Watch Highlander. This is Let's Watch Highlander, The Raven, episode 22, Dead on Arrival. And here to talk with you about it, as we always are, I am Travis, a.k.a. TV's Travis. That is the Audie Norman. Audie, how are you? Yeah. Yeah, it is actually really crazy to think about that. And we have watched a lot of Highlander over the last couple of years, but to think that we've run out of stuff is a little bit crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That is crazy.
Now, I will say, not a bad episode. Just get that out of the way right now. I have some issues, but that's normal for all of these shows. Like, we're used to that. But I think what we do for one more time, we dive into the episode.
Let's do it.
All right, so we open on a guy doing some, I'm going to put in air quotes, hacking.
Right.
Which is pretty much just him sitting in front of a screen waiting while random characters pop up on the screen with some pretty horrendous ADR.
My note for this was like trying to make hackers cool. He's sitting there doing his thing. I'm cool. I can hack. Ooh.
Yeah. And that was not his voice either at all. Like not even close to his voice. I don't know. He reminded me of is there's an actor. I think his name was Tyler something or other. He was in, he was Kano in the original, the first Mortal Kombat movie.
Okay, that's exactly who I thought of.
Okay, too. Good. I'm glad that you thought that as well because it absolutely sounded like him. And maybe he did the ADR for it. I don't know.
Maybe.
His the name, by the way, because it'll bug me if I don't. Trevor Goddard.
Right.
Sadly, he passed away in the early 2000s. But the last thing I remember him in was the first Pirates of the Caribbean. He is in part of the attack on Port Royal.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's who the hacker man sounded like. But yeah, he's just sitting, waiting on that thing. When we see somebody in like a dark coat, almost a cape, walking through the parking garage, and it comes up on his security system, which his computer has apparently an AI running on it because it talks to him.
Yeah.
So this AI stuff isn't new, folks. It's been around for a while.
No, it's not.
So
it was good back then, even though it's not that good yet.
Right. So he knows that somebody's coming, and he's taking whatever info he's downloading, and he sent it to his car. And in the car is a CD drive burner, and it's burning that to a disk. So the guy gets into the apartment, confronts him. They have a little exchange of info. They don't really they use a lot of words to not really say anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then we get a standoff, guns pointed at each other. When they shoot each other, and at the last second, the guy in the cloak tells him, "Oh, I didn't tell you. I reboot." And then
Lord,
he dies. They both die. He comes back to life because he's an immortal.
right.
And then he puts a CD into the computer, which runs a virus and melts the computer.
Because
yeah,
that's how things work, folks.
this is the late 90s. Computers were still effectively magic, especially to the general public. So, like, people want to complain about the movie Hackers being unrealistic. No, this is the stuff that's unrealistic.
Yeah, this was bad.
Also, this cold open was just too long. It was almost 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it felt all of that. Like, it just felt like they were stretching it out. Anyway, that all happens. Credits.
Right.
Come out of the credits, and Amanda's at the club. She's sitting down with a friend, Janet, who is canceling their dinner plans for that night. And as she's going over like all of this, Nick comes in, and we find out that Janet knows Amanda because a couple of years ago she dropped off a bunch of old dresses to the museum that she worked in, the gallery.
Right. Renaissance dresses.
Yes.
Which Amanda just happened to acquire somehow.
Sure. Which, oddly enough, coincided with the theft of a ruby. So, of course, we've got Nick being like, I wonder how that could have happened.
Right.
And Amanda trying to play coy. But Janet has to cancel dinner plans because her brother is in town, but has kind of gone missing. She doesn't know where he is. He hasn't responded to her in like a day. And Nick volunteers to help her figure this out.
Right.
So Nick goes to the apartment. Her brother's name is Tom. Of course, Tom's not there. Just the building manager lets him in. There's some scorch marks on a table, presumably the computer that caught on fire because of the virus, because, again, that's what viruses do. But there's not much else there, including no Tom. The manager wants to know if he's going to come back or not because he owes 200 francs for garage space. And Nick is like, I don't know. It's not my problem. And the guy's like, all right, fine. I'll just sell his car. So Nick pulls out some cash and gives it to him for the car. So he goes down to the garage, gets in the car, turns it on, and the radio starts to screech and squeal and make all sorts of noise. Kind of pseudo modem noises.
I was going to say, I love that it was a dial-up modem. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, perfect. So he stops that, pulls the disc out of the drive in it, the CD player, and it says on there, in case of my death or disappearance, something like that. So Nick takes it, goes back, puts it into his computer with Amanda. They're looking it over. It pops up the same interface that the guy was looking at the beginning, with just a rotating kind of cryptographic thing. It's trying to crack a password or something. We don't know. But while they're looking this over, the guy we saw in the beginning gets an alert on his computer, which also happens to be voice controlled and have an AI to it.
Right.
And the guy figures out that somebody is accessing that disk. Now, they don't explain how. It's just magic. It doesn't work that way, but that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
So
a few voice commands. Hey, where are they?
Right.
They're right here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, they just happen to be in Paris because he hadn't left Paris yet. So he finds out, he cross-references that with like police records and finds out that it's Nick. And then he sees the name Amanda Montrose, wonders if it's the same Amanda he knows because, Amanda's such an uncommon name.
Right.
And then he goes to the club and confronts Amanda, who's there. She's like looking over. She's got a party or something planned.
Well, before that, he's able to send his little program over the internet and fry Nick's computer because, again, that's how that works.
That's how that works. Exactly. So he goes, confronts Amanda. Amanda turns around. Now, he kind of appears. She feels his presence, but he's not there yet. And then all of a sudden, he just shows up. And she knows who it is. His name is Peyton. And we get a flashback to 1610 in the Netherlands. Amanda is tending to a young boy who's suffering from a fever. His parents, the Count and Countess, are worried about him. And as they're talking, their other son arrives, their other son being Peyton. And he has some kind of tonic or tincture that is going to be the restorative cure. So, cut to Amanda in his little alchemy lab later on. She's kind of looking over his stuff when he shows up. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And so they have a little talk. And basically, she lets him know, "Yeah, look, I know you're behind this. You're poisoning the boy in order to basically." What it comes down to is Peyton is poisoning his adopted brother in order to get rid of him so he can inherit all the wealth and all the power and everything.
Right.
And Amanda's like, and when Amanda tells him about that, he threatens to, take her head, which makes perfect sense.
Right.
And she tells him,
they kind of fumble that a little bit, but they basically let us know he's immortal. He knows Amanda's immortal.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of that.
And so Amanda's like, I don't know if that's such a good idea because the quickening would wreck everything in your all your experiments and everything here, which is enough to get him to stop. But he tells her, you have to promise not to tell anyone about this. And she says, I'll make you a promise, but not that. I promise that I will tell the Count and Countess about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And she leaves. Okay. So, back in the present, Nick happened to be nearby and saw this little exchange between the two of them. So he follows Peyton. And this time around, Nick is not very good at following stealthily because Peyton realizes he's there, gets the drop on him, and just starts beating the brakes off him. Just kicking him, just rough. Basically tells him, go away, stay away from me. Nick, being Nick, doesn't listen. So Peyton pulls out a little smoke bomb, drops that at his feet, and disappears. Let's see. So we go back to the club where the whatever event Amanda was prepping for earlier is in full swing.
Right.
And Janet stops by looking for Nick. And Amanda tells her, oh, no, Nick's not doing that case anymore. He had to go to Washington. The local police are fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Which upsets Janet for obvious reasons. So she leaves. And when she gets outside, she runs into Nick, who is looking a little rough, right? He just got kicked a lot, punched in the face, got a big old black eye. He's trying to tell her, like, no, I didn't leave. I don't have any information yet. And she's all upset because of what Amanda said. So Janet leaves. Nick goes inside and he's putting ice on his eye, and he's talking to Amanda, being like, why did you tell her that? And he's looking rough. Like as the scenes go on, he's just looking rougher and rougher. So Nick wants to go after Peyton. And Amanda warns him that, like, this guy's dangerous. You need to let this go. And we get another flashback.
Right.
We get to find out just how dangerous he is. In the second flashback, Amanda's telling the Count and Countess, like, look, your adopted son Peyton is behind everything. He's poisoning your son. At first they don't believe him, but she's like, look, I got proof. Let's go. They go down to his lab. Of course, he feigns innocence, right? Oh, I would never do that,
Right.
Father. Oh, and Amanda goes to the drawers to find the herbs and the poisons and all that. They're not there. But he didn't do a very good job of stashing them. A rat got into them, and the dead rat body is what gives it away.
Mm-hmm.
So the Count is like, fine, that's it. You're done. I banish you. The only reason you're still alive is that you are my son. He's begging for forgiveness. The Count's like, And then we see, as he's holding the Count's hand, he pulls a ring, little needle on it, stabs the Count with the needle, poisoning him.
Yeah.
Kills the Count, and then he just disappears. Amanda can't catch him. He's gone. So we go back to the present, and Peyton shows up at the club now, and he's like, hey, your boy there, poisoned. My poison.
Mm-hmm.
He inhaled a slow-acting poison, and he's got about 22 hours or so to live. But if you give me 12 hours, I'll give you the antidote.
Right.
And then in another flourish, he disappears. He's very theatrical, very magician, which they didn't start off telling us about that. It was weird. That felt like, oh yeah, by the way, he's a magician. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they really kind of just, they try to show you he's a magician type without explicitly telling us. And in this show, that you either got to do it really well or you've got to tell us.
Yeah.
And they did not do it really well and tell us well.
Right. So Nick is getting worse and worse. Amanda tells him they're going to figure this all out. They go to a doctor. We see them coming out of a hospital with Nick being like, yeah, they're just, whatever doctor we go to is going to say the same thing. So they go back to the club, and Janet is there. She's got a letter from her brother that was sent the day that he disappeared. And it's...
Well, real quick, before we get to that, as they're leaving the doctors, there's one very specific thing Amanda tells Nick that I was just like, light bulbs going off. She said, "You're not going to die. I promise you that."
Sure.
In a very telling way. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're tipping their hand a little bit, but also it's kind of, you could play it off as Amanda's just very protective of him. But anyway.
Right.
So Janet's got this letter. It was basically Tom, her brother, had sent an insurance policy, and it was all the info he had on Peyton. He had been tracking Peyton for months, and all of his nefarious dealings. Basically, what Peyton was doing was he was taking money from different banks and moving it around, because that's all. I mean, it's all just electronic numbers. It's just information. Right. So he was taking it from one bank, putting it in another, moving it from that bank to another one, never leaving it anywhere for that long. But Tom had been tracking him and knew where at least some of his money was, and had all the info to back it up and all of this. So they figure out that what he had everything up to and including the bank that it would be at in a numbered account. They didn't know the number of the account, but they knew what bank it would be at and when he was going to be withdrawing it. And then Amanda remembers some stuff that happened during the flashback where Peyton was showing her this numerology astrological chart and all the numbers on it.
Right.
And she realizes those numbers are probably what he used for his bank account, even though that's not how numbered bank accounts work. You don't choose it.
Right.
They give you one, but it's fine. So they decide that they're going to go do that. And they send Janet in because, as Amanda says, he knows me. Even she doesn't let on that like he's going to feel that I'm here, but she's like, he knows who I am. So if he sees me, it'll all go bad. He doesn't know who you are. They assume he doesn't know who she is. Nick, meanwhile, getting worse. This poison is just doing a number on him. He's half hallucinating. He's sitting in a car. He sees Peyton coming, screws a suppressor onto a pistol, confronts him, and is like, "You're not going anywhere." And Peyton says, "Well, you can't stop me." He's like, "No, but I can slow you down," which I thought was pretty good. But right there, broad daylight on the street, Nick shoots him to slow him down, to basically stop him from moving.
Shoots him in the leg.
Broad daylight on the street. And then they see Janet coming out with the briefcase. And that's but shooting Peyton in the leg was enough to keep him from doing anything.
Right.
And also apparently keep anybody from calling the police. So that
He
was a
had a
little.
suppressor. Nobody knew he actually shot him. They just saw somebody fall down.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they don't know how computers work. Of course, they're not going to know how the suppressor works. So that's fine.
Well, that's nothing new.
That's true. But it's enough. They get away. They get the money. And they go back to the club with it. So then you see Amanda and Nick with the briefcase full of money, which did have a moment when Amanda's looking over all of the cash. It cracked me up because she picks up a stack of them and you could see that the backside of them were blank. And it was just a stack of paper with like one fake bill on top. I had to laugh at that.
Oh, yeah.
So they've got his money. They've got like 10 million of his money. But for whatever reason, Janet isn't there and instead is just out on the street for some reason. So while she's out on the street, Peyton, knowing who she is, because we established that in that opening scene.
Right. He saw the picture.
Yep. So he comes up to her. He nabs her. She wants to know where her brother is. And he says, well, I'll show you. And takes her over and pops open the trunk, and there's her dead brother in the trunk of the car. And then he takes her. So he calls Nick, who just keeps getting worse.
Yep.
And like to the point where he collapses while trying to set up the meeting with Peyton. But they set it up, and Amanda's getting ready to leave, and she's like, you're coming with me. And Nick says, no, you don't need me there. She's like, I'm not leaving you. You're coming with me. And he comes along because why not? So they get there. Amanda feels his presence, knowing they're at the right spot. Nick isn't going to make it in. He can barely stand.
Right.
So she leaves him there, goes inside, sword drawn. And she has her confrontation with Peyton. And Peyton has all sorts of illusions, right? He's in one spot and he disappears. And it was weird for me because, again, like, okay, so we've established he does some magical stuff, right? Some tricks, some illusions. But we haven't seen this level of magic since Highlander 3, the movie.
Right.
And it's never really been talked about again. So it felt odd. And while this is going on, Nick is outside and he hears Janet banging in the trunk of the car. So he goes, pries open the trunk because he had enough strength to do that, gets her out and has her leave. And then he goes inside. What we figure out is, like any magician, Peyton isn't really doing magic. It's just illusion. He's got a holographic projector.
Right.
Because those are indistinguishable from humans. And while...
Yeah, I'm like, at some point, Amanda doesn't seem to think, like, with all this swinging, she's got to know she's not hitting anything. Something's not hitting her, right? Like, I mean...
You would think so. Nick, as he gets inside the warehouse, finds the projector. He sees it up on the wall and ends up... The single projector.
There's only one for all this.
I mean, this was some Star Trek holodeck level stuff that this guy had, apparently. But he finds out, he shoots that out, which ruins the illusion. So now Amanda knows where the real Peyton is, and they continue their fight.
Right.
She does get the upper hand on him, but doesn't kill him. And then runs, and he chases her, but then she gets the drop on him again. So there really was no point in her running off to go up those stairs. Yeah. Because then the next thing she does is disarm him, and he says, hold on, wait. You want the antidote for your friend? And she's like, you and I both know there's no antidote, and cuts his head off.
Right.
So she could have just done that on the floor when she disarmed him the first time. But
yeah, but then she couldn't be up there for the really cool quickening scene.
Right. So while the quickening is going on, Amanda's getting a quickening, and Nick's life is flashing before his eyes because the poison is taking its toll. He's succumbing to the poison. So we get a lot of flashback stuff of all the things that's happened with Nick over the season.
Right. His life, i.e. the show.
Yeah. His life for the last 12 months or however long we've been we've known him. We get that while Amanda's going through the quickening, and then that ends, and she goes over to him and he's dying in her arms, and says basically, okay, I guess this is it. And Amanda apologizes to him.
Yeah.
And he asks, what for? And she goes, for this, and takes his gun and shoots him. And then he wakes up because Nick is an immortal.
Yep.
And it turns out Amanda knew this from the moment she met him. And she shot him to trigger the immortality because the poison was slow acting and he would have just died from it. So he is kind of upset with her. He's not really a fan of immortality. He's not really a fan of how it all worked out, that she chose that for him. All of this kind of stuff. Amanda thought she was helping him, giving him some kind of a gift. He's calling it a curse. And the episode ends with him walking away and Amanda contemplating kind of what happened. And we get a little voiceover of him being philosophical, and he walks off and we fade to black, and that ends the episode.
Yeah, saying the line, what room is there for love when there can be only one? Credits.
End credits, end of season, end of show. I have thoughts. I don't know about you.
Oh, I've got some.
It's not a bad episode. It's a decent episode.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's not the best one of the season. I'm still not sure exactly how I feel about having Nick become an immortal at the end of season 1. And the reason for that, now, not only from a narrative standpoint, but also behind the scenes, Paul Johansson had no desire to play an immortal, according to the trivia. And the trivia on this episode is great, by the way, in IMDb. The trivia is the following entries. I have to read these. These are too good not to.
Sure.
So the first piece of trivia, 2 words, series finale. All right.
Yeah.
Sure. Then we got the flashback scenes take place in 1610. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's true, but they also put that on screen. So.
Right. That's...
Final appearance of Amanda. She does not appear in the 2 movies that followed the franchise, which is also true. And should have. She would have made a much better character than Faith in Endgame.
Yeah.
And the less we say about the Source, the better. Although she would have made that better. But I digress. The last one was Paul Johansson had no desire to play an immortal. As such, the ending of the episode and the revelation of Nick Wolf's true nature likely ended any chance of Johansson ever reprising his role. I agree, or I somewhat believe the first part of this, but the second half of that is it's not because of making him an immortal that he wasn't coming back for the role. It's that the show wasn't going to get picked up.
Yeah.
And then it makes me wonder, when do you think they decided on that? At what point in the season do you think they decided we are going to go through with this? Because there was very in Highlander, in the first episode, Connor tells Duncan, keep an eye on the kid, right?
Right.
That sets up Richie becoming an immortal during season 2. And so we sort of were set up for that, and then it's a lot of, Duncan being Duncan and going through whatever he's going through. But kind of in the back of your mind, when they do that, it's like they gave themselves an out of, we sort of signposted it early on. And we have seen in the series and in the mythology, they know when somebody is going to become an immortal, or there are signs, and so the immortals will know it.
There's something they feel. They haven't really explained it, but there's some sort of feeling that they just know.
Yeah, because
it's not quite the tingle, but
no, but at least on a couple of occasions we had immortals grooming a young person to become an immortal that maybe wasn't yet. And it feels weird to say grooming because that has such a negative connotation, but it's what they're doing. They're preparing.
Right. Yeah.
So there is something there. But unless I missed it, I don't recall anything really giving us that at any point prior to this episode with Nick. Am I wrong
Not at
there?
all.
Okay.
Not at all. If anything, the only thing that explains it is why the heck they have stayed together this whole season.
I
Like,
mean,
why Amanda has stuck around with him for whatever reason.
yes.
Especially the first half of this season, where we're like, what is going on? What are they doing with the show? Why are these people together and keep having these roundabout conversations? And it still makes me question even more, why would Amanda stick around for this? Like, okay, he's going to be immortal. So?
Right. It doesn't feel like something Amanda would really care about for somebody she just
Right.
met. Like, I could understand it if it was somebody that she had met and something really important happened. But what happened in that first episode wasn't enough of an impetus for her to stick around and make sure this guy becomes an immortal. And the whole idea of, well, it wasn't my place to say anything to you. And it's like, well, okay, but you stuck around, so you were going to eventually. It just felt weird. And I just wonder at what point in the season they made that decision, because I cannot.
Yeah.
I don't believe it was from the outset. Because if that trivia is true and Johansson had no desire to play an immortal, then you don't cast him.
Right.
Because that's something I feel. Now, again, this could also be kind of 90s era television production where maybe you don't think that far ahead. But I feel like a reveal like that of a character, you think about enough ahead that you're preparing the actor for.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where somebody producing, getting this going, had that idea, never told anybody, and then decided to, let's bring this nugget at the season 1 finale. I don't know. It's weird.
It also go ahead.
Here's what I compare it to, and what one of the biggest TV struggles I've ever had was with what they did with How I Met Your Mother. It kind of reminds me of that.
I could see that.
And if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it rubbed me the wrong way with the way they ended that season and series and the revelation of things in that. But this just, I feel like they just did not land this plane well. I don't mind him ending up being immortal, but him becoming immortal this way, and especially his reaction to just immediately be pissed off, just did not sit right with me.
That actually bothered me less. Like, his reaction to it kind of fit who Nick was, because he had no say in it. Here's some of the issues that I have with how they handled this. Number one, you took in season 1 and you've already ended the will they, won't they, in a way. Right? Maybe they don't get together, but you've taken a huge part of the dynamic of their relationship and removed it. Because the whole thing with them was he was mortal, she wasn't, and the clashing of those two worlds. It would have been like ending season 1 of Highlander with Tessa becoming immortal.
Yeah.
Because that fundamentally changes Duncan and Tessa's relationship. The thing that made that relationship so strong was she was his anchor to humanity and the love of his life, in part because of her mortality. And to take that away would have changed it. So you take that away from this dynamic and it completely changes what they've got going on. So if you're going to do something like that, you either do it early, do it within the first few episodes, and then build on that. Don't leave that as a cliffhanger at the end of your first season. I don't think that's a good place to do it. I do think him not liking it works because, again, you've taken away his agency at that point. He had no control and no choice over this, which that's true of immortality. They don't know it beforehand, and it takes the violent death to trigger it, and now they have to deal with it. And they're all going to accept it and deal with it in different ways. But to do it the way that they did, I don't like Amanda not saying anything to him for so long and then being the one to do it anyway, because she's been around enough to know what that's going to do to somebody, and been around him long enough to have some idea of how he would react.
Right. I think the thing that bothered me is like he's immediately pissed off, and that's all we get. Like, I want more reflection on that. I don't want the hey, you're immortal, this sucks, the end. I want at least a little reflection. Like, there's parts of this episode that we could have trimmed the fat for sure.
Oh,
and gotten
big
a little
time.
something.
Big time.
Gotten some more. Lord, have a conversation between Nick and Liam for this. Good Lord, bring that into it.
There's a lot. There's a lot they could have done.
Like, I would have been fine with him being pissed off and walking away from Amanda, sure. But more of a reflective, like, what I just don't understand this. I've fought against this world this whole season, and now you're bringing me into it, and I don't know what to do with that.
Mm-hmm. And I think the idea is we want the cliffhanger, right? The cliffhanger ending, and then we'll explore all that in season 2. The problem with that is, number one, you're a syndicated show, so you don't know season to season if you're coming back. So cliffhangers are always a risky business anyway. But the other half of it is exactly this. If they had done this an episode even before, do that at the end of the last episode. Make that the transition point. Something happens. He becomes immortal. We get one episode of him dealing with that, and there's your cliffhanger. Your cliffhanger ends not with him immediately upset and walking away from Amanda, but we get at least some resolution to that initial situation. And then they can part however you want. If you want him to be upset with Amanda, I'm fine with that. But we got nothing for it. Like you said, have Liam there. Have the ability to reflect upon it. For him to give more, like, we got 2 minutes of that. We spent less time of the runtime of this episode on Nick becoming an immortal and dealing with that before walking away than we did the cold open of a dude sitting at a computer looking at nothing.
Yeah.
Like, we spent twice as much time with that opening. So that's where, and that's where I feel like they just didn't think about this ahead of time much.
No.
And just kind of were like a few episodes before this decided, you know what, we're going to make him an immortal.
Yeah.
And they didn't do enough groundwork.
Just in the middle of writing this freaking episode.
Like,
why don't we just make him immortal at the end?
Because, and that was one of the things with Richie, was we set it up at the beginning of the first season, right? We plant the seed for that, but then nothing happens with it for a while. But they didn't do it at the end of the season. They did it partway into season 2.
Yeah.
We got however many, I can't remember exactly how many episodes it was into season 2, but we were partway into it, and we lost Tessa, and Richie becomes an immortal in the same episode. And then we had the rest of season 2 for Duncan to deal with, A, Richie, and B, the loss of Tessa. And that was such a driving force for the rest of that season. And how good was that, right?
Right.
So they needed to learn from that. And if you're going to, you either do it early on or wait until partway through that second season, then you change the dynamic between these two. Now you've got some time to play with it and to go through it, instead of just dropping it and being done. So the bummer of it is we will not ever get any resolution to it because the show was canceled and not renewed and all that kind of stuff. But you know, oh, by the way, Thomas Lockyer, who played Evan Peyton, if you didn't recognize him right away, he might have looked a little bit familiar. And there's a reason for that for Highlander fans. He was in Highlander Endgame. He was the Watcher that Matthew Hale, the one that Joe shoots at the end.
Okay.
And he has some line about like when he's putting, or no. Yeah, he's the one at the end, and he's the one that puts Connor into the sanctuary. because he tells him, one of your
Oh, okay.
kind. I just remember that shot and his face, and I was like, wait a minute, I know this guy, and I had to look it up. And he's been in a bunch of stuff. I mean, he was in
Sure.
The Merlin TV movie in 1998. He's Robin Hood series in 2006, MI5. Like, he's been in things, but that was what I recognized him from, was Highlander Endgame. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Interesting.
So he did this, and then a couple years later they cast him in that, which means probably Panzer Davis remembered him from this episode.
Yeah.
We also had Vernon Dubchev as the Count,
Yes.
showing up. I think this is this his third Highlander appearance?
I don't remember.
I mean, most famous for me, he's the butler in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't hear the name Mickey.
The accent.
Yeah, I can't hear the name Mickey Mouse without thinking about the way he said it in that movie. If you're a Scottish lord, then I am Mickey Mouse. Like,
right.
That is just in my head forever. But he was in at least one episode of the Highlander series, if I recall.
Sure.
But he's great.
Yeah, I think we've seen it before.
And I'm pretty sure he showed up in Sherlock Holmes at some point. The Granada series that I love.
Yeah.
I have no doubt he was in there somewhere. Because it's just kind of like everybody. Oh, and the Merlin TV movie too.
There you go.
Lots of crossover. Yeah, Highlander the Raven. I feel like he was in Highlander though. Yep. 2 episodes. 2 episodes of the series.
Oh, there we go.
So yeah, I just always love seeing that kind of stuff. He's great. He's just one of those great character actors. He's got a great look.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a wet fart to end the series on.
Yeah.
Just because, like, we had been trending so much better, and it's not even a so bad it's good type episode, because it's just sort of, this feels like one of those that just was cobbled together.
Yeah.
We talked about,
because
like,
you've got,
go ahead.
Even on top of the whole not landing the plane well at all with Nick being an immortal, this is one of those episodes where they're playing with technology and playing with special effects, and they are just not ready for prime time.
No.
At all.
No.
They're going for it anyways. And the whole, like, and it's that much more appalling to us on this side of it, the hokey computer technology stuff that they dabble with, and like a virus can fry a computer to where it'll smoke and leave scorch marks.
Yeah, what was the episode with Duncan where the guy's got the computer game? You remember that one? He's stuck in the building, and we hated that so much because it was it was the same type of thing.
Which is funny because the girl in that episode was actually Nick's ex-wife.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I forgot about that.
So,
but it was like, it's the mishandling of Nick at the end here. It's the pacing was not great. Not a lot really happens in this episode, but yet too much happens in the episode, right? Like, that opening was just too long. Shorten that up. Give us more interactions with Wolf and Amanda, and make Peyton more of a threat.
Yeah.
Than he really was.
And again, this is one of those where the flashback was a little too much. We did not need quite so much flashback. We did not need to fool around as much in that flashback as we did.
No, you could have had half the flashback and it would have been fine. Take the 2 halves of it, combine those, trim them down a little bit. Because they could have done that and then given us more with the Nick reveal and the fallout from that. Even if they had done that, if they had made Nick, not even the whole episode, but like halfway through this episode, become immortal, and the last half of it we're dealing with all of that stuff, and then we end the season, even that would have been better. That's a better cliffhanger to set yourself up on.
Yeah.
Because you're not blindsided. You're not getting whiplash from like imagine imagine it being 1998, right? I think is when this comes out. 1999. So imagine it's May of 1999. You've been watching this series. You've gotten, you've made it through to this point, and it ends like that. That would be such a terrible way to end a season. And at that point, you don't know if it's coming back or not. Like, we have the benefit of knowing this is where it ends. There is nothing else.
Right.
But that would bother me so much at that time.
Yeah.
So.
Because you would want it to at least come back and, like, do better by Nick or something.
Something, yeah. It makes me kind of glad I didn't know about this show at the time, because I would have been really upset.
Yeah, pretty much. I do like that Nick got one good line in this episode when he's following Peyton, and Peyton beats him up, and just by kicking him, and he's down on the ground, beat, and he's still like, anybody tell you kick like a girl? I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, okay. Nick. Yeah, Nick's always
we got
tough.
One good Nick line in there.
So, I mean, that is the final episode of Highlander the Raven, Dead on Arrival. And kind of a fitting title.
Yeah. That's what I'm laughing at.
Okay. Question for you, because that title doesn't really make any sense to the story of this episode. So was that somebody in the production just being like, having a little fun?
I mean,
come on.
Probably.
Like,
I mean, they couldn't have known that they weren't going to be picked up, but like they had to have known what this episode was doing, especially at the end with Nick. It's like, yeah, just call it Dead on Arrival.
It's a little too on the nose. But that's the episode, and that's the series. That is Highlander the Raven. We have watched. Yeah. We've done it, Audie. We have watched all of Highlander the Raven, the series that nobody even knew existed.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I was at a place a couple of weeks ago and messaged Travis. I actually found a set of the DVDs at a place, and it was like, hey, it's in the wild. Somebody still has it somewhere.
Amazing that exists. So that is the episode. Now, next time, we're gonna wrap up because we have watched it all, folks. There is no more Highlander content for us to cover. But we want to talk about the season as a whole. We've dissected this episode a little bit, but we'd like to reflect on Highlander the Raven and sort of the state of Highlander as a whole. So we've got one episode left. We may have run out of content to watch. We got one episode left for you. So we're going to come back and we're going to do that.
I was going to say, these two guys, we can ramble on about some Highlanders, so we're going to do that at least one more time. And we're going to talk about some things that'll be happening after that. Perhaps some little bonus extras for this Highlander show that may be coming down the line. We'll talk all about that next time. But until then, so you can watch us record this live Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/TVsTravis, or on YouTube at youtube.com/@TVsTravis. But also, we're all over the socials, and we love to talk about Highlander, the upcoming reboot with Henry Cavill, the shows in themselves. I got sent today on TikTok a great clip from, what did you say that was? The Goldbergs? The Goldbergs is the name of the sitcom.
Okay, which I've never seen before, but my friend Joe Hood sent me on TikTok. He's like, have you ever seen this? He's like, I don't know this show, but have you ever seen this reference? And it's Clancy Brown is the woodshop teacher, and a couple of the groups of kids have their Highlander groups, their Highlander fan groups. And it was great. I loved the writing of that was perfect, where Clancy Brown's like, it's not too much unlike the struggle between Connor McLeod and the often misunderstood Kurgan. Like, it was just so good. So if you want to talk about that, if you want to, hey, did you know this reference, or did you know this was, all of that, or even not Highlander related, I'll talk about anything, but I'm all over all the socials as TV's Travis. And Audie, you're all over the place as?
You can find me at the Audie Norman.
Excellent. So we will be back one more time for one more round of Let's Watch Highlander. Oh, feels weird, doesn't it?
It does feel weird.
It does. But you know what? until then, just remember, we're going to do this once more.
Because there can be only one more.
Excellent.
Boom.
Recording finished. Now, we're going to stick the landing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot better than your show did.
It's a poor show.
I know.
It's so sad.
They tried.
For this to be the final episode, and it's like, yeah, I see. I understand after everything. Yeah, I get it. I get why it's such a sour thing for the fans and everything. It's like, oh, yeah.
Given I know season 6 wasn't great of Highlander. Kind of everybody involved has even sort of said that to an extent. Like Adrian Paul will talk fondly about parts of it, but
sure.
It's also they didn't have a ton of money. It was a shorter season. They were sort of in a flux. They didn't really know what was going on. But to spend so much of that season trying to figure out what they were going to do for this spinoff and setting up a spinoff, and then they scrap all of that and give it to Amanda, which they should have just done in the first place. And then they give this to Amanda. And it's unfortunate for kind of everyone involved. So, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, but you wonder if this show would have gotten half the audience if it wasn't Amanda, if it was some rando.
Oh, it wouldn't have. No, not at all. I mean, and that's the thing. That's why I'm saying, don't even play around with the other characters. Just give your spinoff to Amanda or Mythos. Those are the two characters that needed it. Everyone wanted the Mythos and Joe buddy cop show, which, I mean, let's face it, would have been amazing.
Right.
But they wanted to go with a different route, and I think giving a show to Amanda is fine. I like her as a character, and some of the stuff they did was interesting, but they just needed to do better.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that the chemistry was so bad between her and Johansson early on, especially. That didn't help. But hey, at least we had what we had. I did see a great video from, I think it was about a year or two ago, with Adrian Paul and Elizabeth Grayson met up at I think it was at a con or something. That was great to see those two. It appears that all the relationships are pretty good with everybody. When they do get together. So, and then I was looking at my calendar. I've from Saturday, it's 9 weeks until I leave.
Daggum.
It doesn't feel like it feels like forever, and also like I'm not going to be prepared. Right. I got to get my travel charger. I got to get emails out to figure out if I'm going to actually get to interview him or not. It's going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
Cool, dude. Well, we did it.
We did it.
We'll do one more next week, and then we'll spend some time plotting and scheming and figuring out what we're going to do next. Because we're doing something. Yes. I don't know what, but we're doing something. So for those of you hanging out in the chat, we are... Yes, Stephen. Right. Plots and schemes. We have many of them. Also, Stephen, you and I got to set some time aside and start talking a little bit about a little something we've talked about. Which would be a good project for us this summer. So, alrighty. Well, I'm going to call that good for tonight. Get some, let everybody have some time back. Maybe do a little editing. We'll see. But yeah, cool, man. Thanks for stopping by, Stephen. Faye, thanks for being here. We love you guys. And we'll be back next week. I've got Amy Robinson coming on this weekend for... Wait, you haven't seen. We're talking the Iron Giant.
I heard that. I couldn't believe she had not seen that.
I couldn't believe it either.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, between Tyra last week with Secret of Nim and then Amy with... And I did not plan to do Secret of Nim and Iron Giant back-to-back. It just worked out that way.
Yeah.
And I am the Secret of Nim
episode was good. I need to go watch that again.
Oh, I love that movie. I know. yeah, just gives me so much
Yeah.
joy and comfort for a movie that scared the crap out of me as a kid.
Right. Yeah.
It is a little less scary now, knowing that John Carradine was half drunk while recording everything for The Great Owl, but
right.
Still, yes, time is an illusion. Lunchtime, doubly so. All right, folks. Thanks for hanging out. We will catch you next time. All right. Bye.
Bye.